Thank you for doing this leadership series. Really appreciate it.
Happy to.
So you have had a very long career in politics, in PR. Just talk a little bit about your experience in communications.
I have had a lot of experience over the last 35 years or so in a variety of roles, both in government and the private sector. I would say, in terms of communications, probably the most important thing is a clarity of vision when you set out to get something done in either the public or the private sector. So you've got a clarity of what it is you're going to do, and you execute against that. I find when people get into trouble in terms of leadership and communications is when they're lacking that sort of clarity.
In the roles that you've had, communicating under pressure is obviously something that happens. For leaders that you advise, and also when you have been in those positions yourself, what have you learned over the course of time in terms of how to communicate under pressure effectively?
I think one of the key things when you're under pressure is to remain calm, and the calmer you are, the better it is. That's number one. And again, if you've had a little bit of clarity of vision to start with, stick to that. Don't start running around in all sorts of different directions because the heat's on or things are getting tough. So I would say clarity and calm are important under those circumstances.
What separates an effective leader from someone who is ineffective?
I think an effective leader thinks it through and doesn't rush out the door when they have half the information, and they take it in stride. Sometimes people rush out to try to kill the fire, and instead they end up pouring gas on it. So making sure you have all the answers, making sure you've gone through it, making sure that you've thought of different angles on things before you're in the firing line. I would think that is an important thing for leaders to do.
How important is media training for executives and for politicians for that matter?
I think it's very important, and I think everyone needs media training. I used to think I was pretty good, and I got some media training many years ago, and I went over the tapes, and I realized, man, did I have a lot to learn. So I think everybody can learn from those circumstances. It provides clarity, it provides focus. It's very, very helpful. So that's the one thing I would always suggest, and I think it's a good thing to do periodically to kind of dust yourself off and make sure that you're current and that you understand the media world as it exists today, not one that maybe existed 5, 10, or 15 years ago.
And let's talk about that, how the media environment has changed and how communications has changed, within this environment.
I think it's changed. I think answers have to be a lot shorter. I think answers have to be a lot more focused. I think there's a lot more scrutiny on things. That there's instead of maybe just having 3 or 4 or 5 major outlets, there are now literally hundreds of them, and there are also potentially hundreds of critics out there too as well. So you got to really do your homework nowadays. And so communication, there's opportunities for mass communications, which are great, but there's also opportunities for mass mistakes, which is great.
Do you often see, because I know that you watch political coverage, you're also, have got a keen eye on corporate Canada and the global corporate world. Is there a mistake that you see leaders often make that you wish that they would not and you could correct them on?
I think on the political side, we've gotten way too carried away with leaders coming up with their own facts and not neutral or true facts. And I think people are getting really, really turned off on that. And I think leaders have to be very cautious about what comes out of their mouths and what they say, and make sure that they can back things up. So that's one thing I would say that I know that there's a fair amount of people really are starting to get annoyed at that sort of conduct, and that's not partisan. It's among all parties and all levels of government. So that's a critical thing that I think needs to be looked at.
There's often this combative relationship that can exist nowadays between the press and politicians, or even corporate leaders for that matter. How do you maintain a professional relationship so that things don't become overly unnecessarily heated?
Well, again, I think sticking to the facts helps a lot. I think being able to talk to people outside of the cameras or on air or online, I think is important. I think talking to people online is very different than talking to people in person. And I think the more you can do a little bit in person work, the better off it is. I think there's been a deterioration of relationships between people in politics in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I think a number of people would like to see that change and start to come back a bit. And I think, for instance, the relationship most recently between the prime minister and the leader of the opposition has been positive. Or they're at least building something there that's more positive. I think that's healthy for politics, and I think it's healthy for both of them too as well.
And just finally, there will be a lot of folks in leadership positions or going into leadership positions that will be watching this series. If there's one piece of advice that you can give to someone who might be entering a leadership position or is in one, what would that be?
Again, I come back to what I said at the beginning. I think you need clarity of vision. Think the thing through. Figure out what it is that you want to do. Make sure you communicate that well to people and execute against it. Do not be changing your mind on things and be running all over the place. I think that's a recipe for failure, not success, and you'll get yourself into trouble. I think the best thing is clarity of vision, execute against it, and at the end of the day, you'll feel better about yourself.
Okay, Bob Richardson, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please make sure to subscribe to this channel for more or visit westbridgestrategies.com for more information on our organization.